Hey, good morning, you guys. It's time to rise and thrive. It's Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Central Time. I'm Trisha Turner. This is the weekly podcast, Rise and Thrive, formerly Walk Away Wealthy, formerly Anything But Average. And so, if you've been following along, this is a podcast that's been running for 3 years now, and it runs every week to bring you positivity on ways to help you grow your business, ways to help you improve your life, ways to just help you have some hope in this world. And so, when I renamed it and restructured it and came up with Rise and Thrive, the purpose there was to focus on faith, family, finances, and fitness, all of the things that are most important in my life. And so every week, the goal is to bring you someone that is like killing it in one or all of those areas and someone who I absolutely love. So this morning, I have Chad Smith with me, and I'm super excited for you guys to hear from him. Hi, Chad.
Hey, Trisha. Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. Hey, Chad. So everyone knows a little bit about your backstory. Kind of tell everybody where you are in the world, what you do for a living, and how long you've been doing it.
Sure. So I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas market. I've been a realtor for about 20 years now, and I run the Chad Smith team, and it's a team of about 10 to 12 agents. And then I have a coaching community that is now, I guess, several hundred agents. It's grown to several hundred agents, and we're growing quickly with that. And I've been in real estate for 20 years, had no background in business whatsoever. And, I love the topic of your podcast, because the whole thing that I teach and the way that my entire career has panned out is that I had no framework for life, for business or anything like that. And shortly after I got my real estate license, I was invited to an amazing church. And so I've built my entire career on putting God first, then my spouse, then my children, and then pursuing excellence in business. And so that's basically what we do here on a daily basis.
Which is crazy. And so you guys that follow me know I'm very vocal about my beliefs and believe in God and faith and all of that. And Chad and I met several years ago through that kind of connection. I did not know Chad prior to that. And now through the years, we've collaborated and worked together. And now recently, of course, with me switching over to Realty of America, Chad is there now as well. And we are going to get to be part of growing something really amazing. And we feel like God's aligned us to do this together. But Chad, it always wasn't like this for you. And if you're okay sharing a little bit of your story that kind of led you to your faith and kind of how the last 20 years have been, can you share some of that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I like to share my backstory, because I think that when people hear me, a lot of times they think, well, if he can do it, then I can do it. And so when I got into real estate, I had never made more than $22,000 in a year. And I was 26 years old whenever I got into real estate, 46 today. And just 2 to 3 years before that, I had reached a point where I was at complete rock bottom. So my dream growing up was to play guitar, and walked away from a soccer scholarship and started a band that developed a following in Dallas-Fort Worth. We got signed to a local label. They paid for the production of an album. And some guys that had connections to the record industry thought they were going to make a bunch of money off of us. So when I was about 21 years old, they flew my band and I and 40 of our fans to Hollywood, and we played at the Whiskey A Go-Go, where Jimi Hendrix, Guns N' Roses, all those bands had played. We played a showcase in front of all the major record labels. It was amazing. Top of the world as a 20-year-old. And over those next several months, when we got the letters of rejection that they weren't going to sign us to a major label, I just spiraled completely out of control. And I reached a point where I had no purpose. I couldn't fathom just having a dead end job with no point to it. And I cried out for help. It was shortly after that my uncle reached out to me, and he had retired at age 44 from passive income in real estate. So I went and lived with him for a while, and we would listen to Rich Dad, Poor Dad driving around in his car. And he started teaching me principles when I moved back to Texas, I saved up some money to get into real estate. And I knew I wanted to have a positive mental attitude, but I had no idea how to keep it. So anytime pressure would come, I would just crumble. And it was a couple weeks after getting my real estate license that somebody invited me to church. And I was very anti-church, very skeptical, pessimistic. But this particular church is just a wonderful place and helps build strength into people. And it gives them a framework for their faith, for their family, for marriage, for child rearing, and for business. And I've basically been on that journey for 20 years straight. And it doesn't mean that it's all easy, but have the answers. And so now it's up to me to take action on a daily basis and put action behind my faith. And over the years, things have really, it's just been remarkable. It's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. And like you said, I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yes. All right. So unpacking some of that. 20 years ago, like for one, listening to your show, I did not know that you were in this band thing. So I didn't know about that about you. So fun fact there, super neat. Like and then to give up a soccer scholarship, you hear. So my brothers, when I was growing up, were into music. And so I knew it was always their dream to like make it big, and that was always a dream of everyone's, I think, that's a musician. So you actually came very closer than most people do, get rejected, which is horrible. And then you, in your mind, you're like at rock bottom, right?
Yeah, complete. I mean, I would black out if like I would basically party till I blacked out, and I'd wake up and try to figure out who I needed to apologize to. It was as dark as it could be. And I'll share this. I typically do in our community. So my parents divorced when I was 13, and my youngest brother, so he never got that. He was very young when it happened. I was 13. He never got that solidity of the family unit, and he just got exposed to a lot. So he died of a fentanyl overdose 2 years ago. And so I know without a shadow of a doubt that would have been me in some way, shape, or form. I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for, what happened to me and being invited to the right environment and making those decisions. So I wake up incredibly grateful every day.
It's crazy that you share that. Most people that don't know you, and probably even some people that do know you, look at your life. You're married, you have a great marriage, you have a great business, great family, and they probably think Chad's got it going on, and they don't know about the dark times that you've been through. And I think God uses some of our darkest times. And sometimes we don't really understand why we're going through these things. Because when I listen to your story and I think of mine, my parents divorced when I was 11, and I started using drugs when I was 12. And I can pinpoint exactly the very first time I used drugs, and all the way why and where things went from there, and why I now, being an adult with my own kids. And it's like people have no idea the things that we've been through. And thankfully, hopefully no one will ever go through those things. But I think it, number one, builds strength, and it builds character, and it builds a sense of passion. Like I have passion for people to not suffer the way that I have and gone through the things that I have. And I see the same thing in you. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, you are completely. I look back on it, and as one of the ways I describe it is that as much as I would like to say that I'm driven by what I want and kind of pursuing different things, I think that the most definite decisions I've ever made in my life were when I made decisions to not repeat a pattern. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I agree. I certainly don't judge anyone that is going through that. That's not the point of it. But yes, I do operate in such a way that I would want to show as many people as I could the right way of doing things so that they don't have to go through what I went through. 100%.
And when you look at now, like, 20 years ago, when you got into real estate was a whole different ballgame. It's so crazy because we have like the same paths. Like I'm the same amount of time in real estate. It's like crazy. When you think about when we started, like when we're looking today, I looked at the numbers for yesterday, and it shows that, yes, as of yesterday, the real estate sales transactions on a national level are as low as 1993 now. It's like Oh my gosh. And so I wasn't practicing in 1993, so I can't relate to that. But I'm just relating to our population. Like, well, it's 2024. There's clearly a lot more people, home buyers and sellers. So if our numbers are that low as they were in 93, that's a little alarming. Yet 20 years ago, you got into real estate and you're still here and you're thriving and have been. Walk us through a little bit of that because you've seen a lot of dynamics in real estate and how have you managed to keep scaling and growing like you have?
That's great. Yeah. I'll say this. When I got my real estate license, I did not even know what a title company was.
Yeah.
I got my license. I lived in an apartment. I remember taking my yard sign back to my apartment, setting it up at the wall, thinking, this is weird. But, you just start where you start. And there are so many different things that I like to share about the market. Let me say this first. A couple of the mindsets that we have around the market is that someone every single month is having the best month they've ever had in real estate, whether it's 2024, whether it's 2008, whether it's 1993 or 1982. Somebody's having the best day they've ever had. Somebody's having the best month they've ever had in real estate, the best year they've ever had in real estate. So we have a kind of our hashtag around here is what's the market got to do with me? And so if we do the right things, there are always sellers to serve and buyers to serve. And so I learned that through the Great Recession. So I had been in real estate about 4 years, and then 2008 happens. And my first daughter was born April of 2008. And so I remember doing training right there as basically the sky was falling. The stock market was crashing. That was a very volatile year. That was a great financial crisis. And I went to this training, and the guy that was teaching me, he's one of my mentors, and I'm so grateful for him. And he said, I sold 215 houses last year. And if you do exactly what I teach in this class, you cannot fail. And I went, okay, well, he's valid and I can follow instructions. And so my daughter was born April 21st, 2008. And my wife has not had to go back to work since. It was just in my heart that she could be there and be there for the kids during that most important time. And then in 2009, the market volume dropped 40% in Dallas-Fort Worth. And I went from making $58,000 in 2008 to $163,000 in 2009. And so as we went through what we've gone through the last 2 years, skipping ahead to that, I've repeated that almost on a daily basis here, that you can have the best year you've ever had. It's truly a choice. And we've got folks in our community. We've got 18 and 20-year-olds. Angel is sitting over. Well, he was sitting over there. He's around here somewhere. Last year, he was, as a 21-year-old, he made $21,000 in a month. Tevin Rogers is in our coaching community. Last month was the best month he's ever had. This month is better than that. Kathy Alexander in our community is a 70-year-old agent. She has been in real estate for 10 years. Last year, she only sold 2 homes. She connected with us in April and just plugged into what we do. And I think that she sold 12 and has 3 more under contract.
I love that.
And then another success story, Miguel Escobedo. We reconnected in 2022, and he had been a realtor for 5 years, couldn't break 100K. That year, he got over 100K. Last year, he did 250. He did 250 by June of this year, and his team is going to break 500 this year. So
that is insane.
So, and then the team, I skipped kind of in between from individual agent to, 2021, I fell in love with leadership. And so I've got some wonderful folks that are here in the room with me that we've been building together for over a decade. And we've had multiple years where we did 100 million in volume, over $3 million in gross commissions, and just wonderful, wonderful people. And then we, from there, we started learning about what true opportunity looks like, so that it's not just for the owner, which I'm sure we're going to get into here in a little bit.
Yep.
And so for about 3 or 4 years, we've been on this journey to where we could create something that's a big enough opportunity for everyone here.
Mhm.
So it's been fun.
It is fun. Now, when you started your career in real estate, because I know you were at Keller Williams for a long time, did you start at Keller Williams?
Yeah, I started at KW and I was at the same office for 17 years in a row.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing journey. So when I got there, there were 65 agents in that office, and I didn't know this, but it was on the international shutdown list because it wasn't profitable. Nobody told me that
Wow.
in the interview. So I'm there and I'm going to the classes, and then we went for like 9 months with no office manager, no team leader. But I'm a brand new agent. I was coaching soccer. I was driving forklifts. I was doing anything I could to stay in the game.
Yeah.
And then they had a leadership change, and the guy that took it over was the one that sold 215 homes in a year, and he became my mentor. So
Okay.
when he took over in 07, we went from 65 agents to eventually over 700 agents in that office. And in 2013 and 14, we were the most profitable Keller Williams office in the world 2 years in a row. And I served on the Agent Leadership Council there 8 years in a row, served on the Growth Committee, was elected to the Regional Agent Leadership Council, the International Agent Leadership Council. And at one point, I had 33% of that office in my downline. So
That's
it was
crazy.
incredible time there. I'm so grateful for that journey.
Do you think that all of those years, everything that you just talked about, is kind of like primed you for where you are today?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you look at where you've grown, and then you went from Keller Williams, just so everyone out there kind of follows along the path. So Keller Williams is a franchise model. It's been around forever. I was at Keller Williams twice myself. And it's a great company. They do a lot of training. There's something about their offices. The agents go there and they stay there. And a lot of them are lifers. Like Chad, you were there forever. And a lot of my friends I still have over at Keller Williams offices for years. You then transitioned from Keller Williams to EXP, which is the cloud-based brokerage and was the first one. And that's how you and I met.
Right.
What made you make such a different kind of move, having been at Keller Williams for as long as you had?
It's a great question. So the answer to that is through a leadership framework. So I mentioned that I fell in love with leadership after I won that individual agent award. And I went on a hunt for about 5 years to figure out what do I believe about leadership and how should I show up on a daily basis so that I can have the privilege and the honor of leading wonderful people, and that we go together and we stay together. And one of the key things that I made a decision on early, probably 2000, maybe 2 years into my leadership journey, was that it's the job of the leader to never become a limiting factor to the folks who say yes to the journey. And so from the day I met Brooks, from the day I met Jason, I told them, I'm not afraid of you becoming great. And I commit to you that I will never become a limiting factor to you. So if you go back to the last handful of years at KW, I was in Gary Keller's mastermind. I went to the expansion systems operation, the ESO training over and over again, drive down to Austin, spend 2 days there, do all that, and just learned so many good things. And then I expanded. So 2019, 2021, I had the Chad Smith team in Mansfield in Arlington. And then I had an expansion office in Frisco, and they did well. And I realized very quickly I had an organizational chart for the upcoming year. And, there was probably an organization of maybe 50 people. But I realized in that model, if I expand to Frisco and then I expand to Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and then across the country, the only person that's going to truly win in that model is me.
Yep.
And so then Brooke and Jason, actually, we've all worked together for over a decade. They're extremely talented agents, wonderful guys. They came to me and showed me, they set up a Zoom with me with someone from EXP, and I didn't know that that's what we were going to be talking about. And so just through a couple of different things. And then let me say this, I also started coaching with entrepreneurship training outside of real estate. So I got into strategic coach with Dan Sullivan.
Oh yeah.
Myron Golden. Daniel Priestley wrote a book called The Entrepreneur Revolution. And I started listening and seeing how businesses were growing outside of real estate. And so around that 2021 time period, it all clicked that, wait a minute, there's a way that you could sit in this chair and you can build a community of like-minded people. And I could build something that anyone in this community, the Chad Smith team, the Real Solution, could offer as if they created it, and we could monetize it, but then they could expand through this value proposition, and it would be an opportunity as big for them as it would be for me.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot do that if you're. Here's how I explain it to everybody, Tricia. Everybody that watches this, let's just assume for a second that you're going to become the number one agent in your market, wherever you are in the country or outside the country. Let's just assume for a second that you are going to become that, like you're going to dominate the market share. Every agent in your market's going to be terrified because you've just paid the price with the skill and the branding, and you're just that go-to name in your market. For the last 50 to 75 years, if you became that, then the next step would be to go open your own brokerage, an indie office, or buy a traditional franchise.
Yep.
Name them: Century 21, Coldwell Banker, EXP, or not EXP, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, KW, Remax, all those brokerages. You would buy a franchise, and then you could recruit between these 4 streets.
Yes.
On the map. And then if I wanted a bigger territory, I would have to go buy another one, and then another one, and then another one. And what happened with the cloud-based model is it eliminated all the borders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's all kinds of challenges with being the first people to go through that because you don't have it all figured out. And I think that we're entering a really good season of all of this now where there's going to be a lot of value added behind the expansion to truly help people grow. And that's where we are today.
So when you made this switch from Keller Williams to EXP, it literally was for growth so that you could expand, reach more people, and it made more sense. It's innovative.
Yes.
Okay. And then you were at EXP for years. And again, that was the first cloud-based model. It was your first cloud-based experience. It was my first cloud-based experience. We both were there for a substantial amount of time. And now we've made a switch. What in your mind is different between when you joined EXP in the cloud-based model and Realty of America, where we are now?
We were at EXP for just over 3 years, and it was a 3-year transition from just being a real estate business operator to learning how to think like a global small business owner. And I learned some things from the people that we came there underneath. However, there wasn't a lot of a relationship there. And so what we figured out how to do was to grow almost without EXP, right? Yeah. So we've created this community where if somebody was of like mind and they wanted to be part of this, they can be part of the Real Solution Network in coaching community, regardless of what brand they're a part of. Since social media and since the iPhone, we've crossed out of the age of permission and franchise, and we're now living in the age of collaboration.
Yep.
So you can find communities that you can be part of regardless of what brand. With Realty of America, what I found was I found producers that are still producing that had done, like our team, our best year was 106 million, 108 million. The president and the CEO of Realty of America, their best year was about 900 plus million. So they'd almost done 10 times. And once you add in their ancillary,
Oh, yeah.
they've done far more than 10 times what I've done. Well, that's good. I don't want to be in the room where I'm the biggest person. But the other thing is that they're willing to share.
Yeah.
And they also, they see it's a little bit easier when you're not first. And so they see that although the cloud-based model is by far the future, it's indisputable that it's the future. There are some things that happen where people would go and they would get quote unquote lost in the cloud.
Yep.
So what I worked to build for the last 3 years, along with everyone in the community, was let's build something that folks can be a part of on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that way, when they come in, rather than joining a brokerage or an independent brokerage, and then ending up with a coach that was hired for $30,000 to $50,000 a year to almost like babysit agents that maybe never sold more than 11 homes in a year.
Yes.
You could be on a Zoom 6 times a week with somebody who sold $100 million worth of real estate in a year, multiple years in a row. That will change the game for real estate agents that have eyes to see it going into the future. That is the future of real estate, is for the agents that have gone the way, that are willing to turn around and show the way and build these communities. That's the future of real estate. And so Realty of America sees it. And not only do they see it, they're empowering us to do it. And so that's this is the most fun I've ever had in my career, is collaborating with you. I mean, these phone calls that we've had over the last couple of weeks, it's fun again.
Yeah.
There's opportunity everywhere. And it's just kind of fun to be up on the front edge of things that are changing. The only thing I could compare it to would be like when, you asked about those other seasons of real estate. Yep. When everybody was kind of dreaming together at KW Arlington about becoming number one in KW, that was fun. It was a really fun season. And what's really fun about where we are today is that when the economy is challenging, the right people find the right people. And people look up and they pause for a second and go, wait a minute, is there a better vehicle? And that's what's happening right now. But the difference with where we are in 2024 compared to where I was in, let's say, 2007 is we're not, the opportunity for growth is not based on the territory and the franchise. There's an entire world to collaborate with and connect with out there. And that's just what's so exciting about it.
Several things that we were going to talk about. So a couple of, because number one, for you guys that don't know, Chad's in an office. And so when the cloud-based model first came out and was introduced, everyone's like, oh, well, number one, it's more efficient if you can run from your home and not have brick and mortars, and it's less expensive, more profitable. And people did try that method. But what we have found is that actually people still long to be part of something, not just online, but they want to go somewhere. They want to be able to touch someone. Chad, you've maintained a brick and mortar. Why is that?
Well, I can't imagine like waking up and then walking into the spare bedroom every day. Part of it is I don't feel like I'm working. I haven't felt like I was working in a long time. And I also think that we are put here to work. And so I love coming here, and, I can't imagine, it's hard for me to imagine Jason and I not showing up to work. Right. And then what we did is kind of this hybrid. We have our team, we come here, 5 days a week, but then on Tuesdays, anyone of any brand that's in our coaching community, they could come in person on every Tuesday and spend the day with us. And so people like that hybrid opportunity. And what'll happen on Tuesdays is folks will come in. We have this training, then we have an 11 o'clock training. We have our morning training, then 11 o'clock training. And then after that, folks will go out and they'll go shoot content together. Well, they'll go on shadow each other on listing appointments or showings, or go to new agents, will go to inspections or closings, or, and see the process. And so I think it's important. And I'll take this spot right here to say one of my biggest observations is that not just real estate, but the entire workforce is isolated. They become isolated, and the office culture it was broken during COVID.
Yeah.
And in most places across the country, maybe the world, it never got put back together again. And so we just powered through that, and we never stopped meeting together. And it's been so important. You know, we had the biggest years we had ever had during that time. We just said, we're going to keep serving our clients no matter what. And then then, you know, the rates started to change, and we've just been, you know, doubling and tripling the size of our community ever since then, because we're just going to show up and keep going every day, no matter what happens in this economy. Every single day we all show up as realtors, there will still be someone that needs help in real estate to buy or to sell. And so I just think, I think that a big part of it is a commitment to excellence. And it's hard to be excellent if you're still in your pajamas in your spare bedroom.
I love that you said that. Okay, so this is going to lead into my next question, because everyone's going to wonder this. There's statistics, because I even said last year, like, I knew our numbers were coming in low as a nation, but there was so much sugarcoating, and now in 2024, all the numbers are coming out, and they're like, holy crap, like this has really been a struggle. And when you look at the data that's coming in now, it shows that as of November 2024, some reports show 50%, some reports show 70% of active real estate agents nationwide have not sold one single home in 2024. Yet you guys are thriving. What do you think is the biggest factor in why your agents are thriving and there's a huge population not selling anything?
So my answer to that is that real estate success is not built in a day. It's built daily. And you know, for realtors, what we fell into, it's not happening quite as much now, but especially during the COVID, you know, low rate boom, agents fell into the trap of trying to buy a magic solution, right? How to make 100K in 100 days without doing anything, basically, right? I explain this around here all the time. Marketing language, marketing courses teach you to sell the prize without the pain. And that's not really the way it works. It's about doing the right thing every single day. And so the reason there's been any success in this environment is because the only thing that I do left with the Chad Smith team is I sit here every single, what do you guys say? Do I run 90 or 95% of the morning? At least 90, probably 95. 95% of these mornings, I run the meeting, and I'm giving my absolute best every single morning. So I'm like adrenaline shot for 45 minutes every single morning. And I think that that's the difference. How are we gonna overcome the market that's pulling away from us if we're bringing a half-hearted effort? We're not going to. This is the market of extra effort. And so it takes community and keeping it real and pouring into each other and extra effort and excellence and figuring out what the market of the moment is and figuring out how to utilize social media and how to get more referrals through your sphere of influence and how to continue to outbound prospect and just this relentless effort forward. If everyone else is demoralized and you're the only one that's inspired, you're going to take market share. And that's what's happened for us around here.
When you talk of this community that you've built, where did that vision come from? What inspired that?
That's an awesome question. So gosh, how deep to go? Let me say this. It's worth saying. It's absolutely worth saying. So I still play guitar. I play guitar at church. I serve in the praise and worship department at my church. And around 2011, they made a change. When I showed up at my church, been the same church for 20 years.
Wow.
Showed up there, it was gospel music, which I absolutely love. And so the whole band was there with the choir robes. And I mean, I could barely even like stand on my feet. I just thought it was the most wonderful thing. Well, around 2011, they switched it and they were like, hey, Chad, can you wear jeans next week and stand out front and play guitar? And my answer was, I'll do more if you'd like me to. And if you'd like me to do less, I'll do less. Like I'm just there to serve. So the next thing you know, I'm building the Chad Smith team in the middle of the Great Recession, and I'm leading worship. And it starts to consume my mind because that was my dream.
Wow.
Okay, so on New Year's Eve 2012, I got out a notebook, and we had our third daughter was 1 year old. So my wife went to bed at like 10 o'clock, right? So here I am, it's New Year's Eve, it's like 11 o'clock, and I went, oh, I'm going to write something down. And I knew what I was going to write. I was going to write to the Lord, Father God, am I supposed to step away and sell the Chad Smith team and just serve in the praise and worship department? Or am I supposed to pursue the business? And whenever I pulled up the notebook, I opened up the last page that I had written in, like just like this. And the last thing that I had written was the same question. So I had gone for 14 months with no answer.
Wow.
And I think of myself as a proactive person. And when I realized that I'd gone for 14 months and not gotten an answer, I was devastated. And I kind of just, that night, I dropped down to my knees and I said, Lord, I need to know what I'm supposed to do with my life. So the next morning I woke up and I was brushing my teeth. And this still small voice, not audible, just like this thought came to me. And it said, how many people have gotten saved by the way that you play guitar? And I was like, I think people like it, but zero. I think people enjoy it, but that has not made that type of an impact on people. And I said, and then the very next thought just immediately said, how many men and families have been saved by the way you've lived out your faith at work? And there's maybe a dozen men and then their entire families or more that are part of our church through the way I lived out my faith at work.
Yep.
And so from January 1st of 2013 to today, I've known what I was supposed to do with my life. And so all I'm doing whenever I show up here Monday through Friday is living out my faith at work. And I'm looking for as many people as I can possibly find. And that's why I don't feel like I'm working.
And is your vision to change their life, to help them live in abundance? What is your vision?
Yeah, I have a document. It's called an impact filter. And so, yeah, the vision for it was that for anyone who would have eyes to see and ears to hear, they would join along with me to learn how to put God first, and then their spouse, and then their children, and then pursue excellence in business, ultimately to fulfill their destinies and to expand the kingdom. And so that's all I'm doing every day. That's all I ever do is just fulfill that purpose. Have you ever read The Infinite Goal?
No.
Or The Infinite Game, rather, by Simon Sinek?
No.
I was listening to it last night. I have a concept I call the infinite goal. I think that how many agents have you ever seen in the last 20 years that were crushers and they built this awesome team and they had one big year and then the whole thing just went away? And then they kind of like live off that stat as the rest of their career, but all their people leave. I don't want to do that. I was a shooting star early, and I never want to be a shooting star again. I just want to go from victory to victory to victory to victory to victory to keep building. And my perspective is that the only way that you can do that is if you have an infinite goal. If you are attracting people towards you because you have a finite goal, like let's go be number one. Let's go sell this number of houses. Let's go make this much money. Let's go become an ex-millionaire. Let's go do this. Let's go acquire this number of rentals, this much passive income. If that's the only thing that you're attracting with, what happens when you hit it? When you hit it, there's this big hole because you don't know what to do next because you are chasing a finite goal. So I'm not chasing. finite goals to me are just signposts along the way while I'm pursuing my infinite goal, which is to reach as many people as I can to teach them this priority structure that allows you to succeed and never go backwards. I did all that, chasing fame and stardom and celebrity and all that. And I have no desire to do that whatsoever.
So in your morning community, what are those mornings spent doing when you're engaging with your community? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it runs from 8:30 to 9:15 Monday through Friday. We call it a Tumblr. So there's a video clip of Steve Jobs, and they were early, or I think it was early on. They asked him, like, what are your thoughts about team? And he said, my idea of a team, he said, Steve Jobs would like pause for 15 seconds and decide what he was going to say, and then he would start. And he told this story about how when he was a boy, there was an old man that lived next to him, and he mowed his grass. And he went over there one day, and the man said, come over here. And they went and grabbed these old, jaggedy, regular old rocks off the ground. And they threw them into this tin can. And then he poured some grit powder and some liquid in there and plugged it in the wall. And he told Steve Jobs, hey, come back tomorrow. And he said, the next day he came back, and that whole night, the rocks were banging into each other, and they were rubbing against that liquid and the grit powder. And when he came back the next day, they reached into the can, and there were these smooth, polished stones. So what we're doing every morning is what Steve Jobs talked about. We call this our morning meeting the Tumblr. And so it's inspiring, but it's also real. And we're facing the facts of what we're dealing with the market, and we're working to solve it. And we're staying right on the front edge of things. So we celebrate success. We talk about the market of the moment. We give the exact plays that people are running that are winning now, whether it's through new construction, how to beat interest rates, social media. We have an agent in the community, Angelique Burkett. She's been a Buffini student for over 10 years. She sits here once a month and shows everybody, here's the exact things that I'm doing this month to re-engage my sphere. Here's the letters we're writing. Here's the pop-by gifts. Here's the events we're doing. Here's the emails we're sending. And so then we all run those plays. And so we're all just sharing the plays. And then nearly every single meeting, we wrap it up with a gratitude, because there's always things broken in real estate. And gratitude, what we say is that gratitude is not found like you find a penny on the ground or on the side of the road. Gratitude has to be chosen. So we choose to focus on what we're grateful for each day, and then we break and go run the place.
It's funny, like listening to you, and it's crazy because I do these podcasts and I interview people all the time. And when I was little, that was my dream, was to be a news reporter. And it's crazy how like I now get to interview people, and it's so cool because I listen to everything that you say and I'm thinking. And I was just sharing with Paul yesterday, I read a devotional every morning. It's part of my morning routine, and my devotional, and I have anxiety. It's just something I've always had. And it's gotten worse, of course, in the last probably year or so, because there's been a heavy load and we've been transitioning a lot, and just a lot of things have been heavy on me. And so anxiety, and the enemy wants us to be distracted and too busy to spend that quiet time that we need, that still time, to hear that small voice, to hear that comforting, you're going to be okay thing. And in my home and here where we work, I have places where I read and where I can find peace, and I can hear him speak to me. And so yesterday, and it's a chair upstairs and a chair downstairs, and I sit in a certain position, and it's very consistent. And yesterday I was reading the devotional for the day in my reading chair upstairs, and it talked about green pastures in quotations and still waters. And I was sitting in that chair thinking, this chair is my still waters. And here I find his peace. And here I hear him speak to me and tell me everything's going to be okay. And I think what you've created with your, just listening to what you just said, the first thing that came to my mind was you're creating still waters for your people and green pastures.
That's a really good point. I would agree with that.
You are.
Yeah. So one of actually, it was the very first message I ever heard my pastor preach. One of the statements that he made in that message was, in the end, your environment will control you. So you must control your environment. And so that's absolutely what we've done. So you asked me a few minutes ago, like what made us want to do this?
Yeah.
There was a point in the other office. Oh, we did the math. We've run this meeting over that morning meeting almost 3,000 times.
Wow. That's impressive. Holy crap.
We're going to show up. We're going to show up and do that. And so around 2019, 2020, that was when we started to dream this next season of it up. And I asked them, like, how, this is changing our life. So I started to think, like, what would happen if we tore down the four walls of this office? And then we basically just turned that into a broadcast. I will say this too. Another big part of it is, in that same time frame, we sat down with a whiteboard and I asked everyone on the team a question, like, what is it about this environment that's changing your life? And we spent an hour and a half. Is that right? Hour and a half writing on everything we could think of. And then we've refined that into 8 core values. And the 8 core values are the predetermined way that we treat each other inside this environment. And so
what are they?
Yeah. So keep it real, extreme ownership. That's kind of combined together. So keeping it real, telling each other the truth, telling people what they need to hear, not just what they want to hear. So that's number one. Keep it real. Gratitude, which we've already talked about today. What I have written on the wall here is success comes through a constant state of gratitude. Gossip and slander cannot exist in an atmosphere of gratitude. So keep it real, gratitude, outrageous giving. We give first. You can't outgive God. And so I want to lead with value at all times. Arete is the Greek word for excellence. So in 2 Peter chapter 1, Peter says the first thing we should add to our faith is arete, which is excellence. And then it also means moral character and the act of living up to one's potential. So those are the first 4. Keep it real, gratitude, outrageous giving, and arete. Then we have Matthew 6:33, which is putting God first before you seek all the finite goals.
Yes.
Uncommon honor. Uncommon honor is an important one because it's about treating your elders, your mentors, your parents, your grandparents, those who came before you, the men and women of the armed forces, the people who paid the price ahead of us, treating them with honor, treating your peers with honor, and then treating the least of these with honor. So uncommon honor. Let's see. And then we've got habits and consistency leads to growth and opportunity. So we use that one to teach people that there's no entitlement.
Yeah.
Do the right thing consistently. That will lead to growth, which will lead to opportunity. And then we have think long term, which is think about the second order consequences of everything that you do. And then I don't have the last one on the wall. What's the last one that I haven't mentioned? Huh? I said Matthew 6:33. I did it. I did that one. No, I didn't.
I think you got them all.
Was that all 8?
I think you
That would be why. That would be why we can't find the other one because I did all 8.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy, Chad, is that you hear, and I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it was mentioned on the podcast about how we're told as business owners, and whether we're influencers or not, but the things you don't speak about publicly are your religion and politics and things like that. It's like, and Paul and I were having the same conversation last night. It's like, I look at that as like, I'm very vocal about my beliefs and that I am a believer, and without him, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
And you are as well. And it says in the Bible that we're not supposed to be ashamed of him, and he won't be ashamed of us. We're supposed to forgive each other and help each other. And I think the more that we can get out there and be that voice, that it's okay. you don't have to hide, and we're not for everyone, and that's okay too. What has kept this like forefront for you, and where people are like, you shouldn't be talking about religion publicly?
Okay, so I can define this and explain this and help everybody with this. This is spent so much time thinking about all this. When we are a real estate agent, when I'm serving a seller, a buyer, an investor, I'm a fiduciary.
Mhm.
In that moment, it does not even matter what I believe. My job is to put the seller, my client, my buyer, my investor, to put their best interests ahead of my own. All of my experience, all of my knowledge, all of my expertise, all of my energy is devoted to help them get what they want. It does not matter if they believe exactly what I believe. My job is to serve them.
Yep.
So I think my perspective is that a buyer, a seller, an investor, I don't lead with that in that realm, because what matters is that I help them get what they want.
Mhm.
When I'm over here with my real solution community hat on, I'm not representing the agents in this community as a fiduciary where I'm serving them to help them buy real estate under my real estate license with all the fair housing, this and that. I'm here to say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I'm doing. And if you believe exact, or if we're in alignment on those things, not exact, if we're in alignment on those things, let's go build it together, because I don't want everybody to go build their own castle and try to like, look where that's got us, with 70% of all the agents not selling a house because they're stuck in their bedroom in their pajamas. Like, let's all go find our people that we're in alignment with and build together. And then we put on our realtor hat and we go serve our clients. But over here, I don't know how to turn this off. This is just who I am. I'm like this 24/7, 365. And even if they try, they're not going to make me quiet.
No, I love that. This is the real you. When you look at it, in most people, you guys, he does this every day. Like when he tells you he's in that chair and that's how he started, he's committed. What makes you get up every day and get in that chair? Because a lot of people, when they reach your level of success, they move away, or they're off on a boat, or they're like, I don't need this anymore. I'll stick someone else in that position. What keeps you coming back?
Because my goal is an infinite goal. My goal is to give as much money away as I can in my lifetime. So there's no number that's going to cause me to sit back. Most of the guys, I guess ladies too, that I know that are just, if they're pursuing a finite goal, in their head, they've got a number, 10 million, 30 million, whatever the number is. They're like, when I hit that number, I'm going to go, buy a ranch. I hear that one a lot. I'm going to buy a ranch, or, they're going to go to Puerto Rico and pay no taxes, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I had a mentor. His name is Peter J. Daniels, and he's in his late 80s now. He got saved when he was 26 years old. He's an Australian. When he went to a Billy Graham tent meeting when he was 26 years old. And at that point, he was an illiterate bricklayer. And his parents were third generation welfare recipients. And he walked into that meeting one man and he came out another. And he made two commitments that day. He got saved when he was 26 years old. One was to give away as much money into the gospel as one man could in his lifetime. And the second was to change the world for 300 years after he died. And so I've Zoomed or Skyped with him multiple times, and I just adopted that infinite goal to how much impact could I make. At one point, he was the wealthiest man in Australia, and his goal was to give away as much money as he could. So that's been my heritage, is to think about it that way. I just want to serve as many people as I can. So there's no number I'm going to hit that's going to cause me to back off. I'm fulfilling purpose. I'm not chasing a goal.
I absolutely love that. You guys, I want y'all to know, oh, by the way, too. So when I tell y'all that Chad just moved over to Realty of America, you guys know we just did last week as well. This is a company, y'all, that's now like 75 days old, something like that. It's brand new, and it is a cloud-based company. And our vision, being part of it, is that we believe we can build the best real estate company in America,
Yeah.
for the agent, for the seller, for the consumer, for everyone, by putting their, and I love what you said, Chad, about putting their needs above your own, because I preach that every week in our sales meeting to my team. And
Yeah.
I tell them that was driven into me years ago by my very favorite instructor. And it was like, I know that I'm always supposed to put their needs above my own, period. And I think, unfortunately, we've lost sight a lot of that. And so I think it's super cool that you have been like, the role that you're in. And with Realty of America, you are in a position now, right, Chad?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that so people understand?
Yeah. Well, Eddie Garcia is the founder and CEO of Realty of America. We went through this process of meeting each other, getting to know each other. Obviously, you guys can see it. I'm definitely all in for what we're building. And I showed him a lot of this, and he came into town and he sat down with me and said, "Will you help us build out the learning platform for Realty of America?" And so we haven't done any type of official announcement yet, but I am going to be serving in some leadership capacity to help this new era of training the real estate agent so that agents can learn from the top agents that are still in the game.
Yep.
So let me share this, because Trisha, we haven't covered this yet. The
Yeah.
way I phrase this to agents, because I talk to agents every day, is let's say that you and I decided we wanted to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so this coming Saturday, we were going to go to our first training. And if we walked into that gym and the instructor had a white belt or a yellow belt, and we were committed to becoming black belts, we would turn around and we would walk out and we would go.
Yes.
But real estate agents have been getting their training from white belts for decades. And every once in a while, maybe they go to a national convention, they hear from something at the top level. Well, when I was at KW, I was there for 4 years. And I went to all the training and nothing ever broke loose. Then I went to a training when the agent was the number one agent in our board of realty. And when I copied his plays, everything worked. And my whole career changed. So the future of real estate, the next most dominant agents of the next 10 to 20 years, they're going to learn through a Zoom like this today on a daily basis from the agents who have actually done it and are still doing it and are willing to share. And so that's what Realty of America has entrusted me to help with, so that as a company, we can on a daily basis empower the next generation of the most dominant agents in the country.
I absolutely love that. And it's so crazy because you and I come from just being in the trenches and just working really hard and being consistent. And like we talked about, it's like real estate's not that hard. The hardest thing is to get up and do it every single day.
Right. Yeah. Real estate success is not built in a day. It's built daily.
Yep.
Right. But it's not as hard when you show up with wonderful people.
No, it's not. You guys, also, I want y'all to know we have a big event. It's not even out public, so you're hearing about it first time right here publicly. It'll be January 23rd. So watch for that, because Chad will be speaking, of course, and you're going to hear even more about the real solution. And by January, it's like, 6 weeks from now, our date, we'll have more stuff that we'll be rolling out with Realty of America and how to really thrive in 25. The event is called Time to Thrive because there's something to, and I read it 2 weeks ago when I presented to our sales team, and I said, there's a 10-year business cycle, and it's with every business. And it's not just real estate, it's insurance, it's any business. And the 10-year business cycle states that you'll have in that 10 years 2 amazing years, followed by 6 good years, and you'll have 2 years that will absolutely almost destroy you and you'll go out of business. And I told my people, I said, perhaps the 2 years that are ending soon, the end of this year, perhaps, are going to be our 2 worst years, because they have been hard for so many people in our industry, and not just in our industry, because we funnel to so many other industries. They feed off of our work. And so I said, perhaps we're coming out of those 2 years, headed into 2 incredible years, and then 6 really good years. What say you?
I love that. Yeah, I say whether the market does that or not, let's make that happen. We can choose. We can choose to make that happen.
I love it. Hey, Chad, I could sit and talk to you all day, but again, y'all got to come on January 23rd and see Chad in person and hear all about everything that he's doing. How can they get a hold of you and learn more about your everything?
Yeah, therealsolution.com would probably be the easiest way. There are, you can click, I believe my calendar's there. There's several different ways to reach me there. You could also connect to me on Instagram, chad.m.smith. So either therealsolution.com or on Instagram. And yeah, reach out to me. Obviously, you can look up my team and just find me one way or another if you want to connect. But probably therealsolution.com would be the best. Trisha, thank you so much.
Oh gosh, now you're incredible, and I'm super excited about everything that we've got going on, and the future is. I've been telling my family forever there's brighter days ahead, and my daughter said it to me a couple of months ago. She said, "You know, Mom, I think you've been saying that my whole life," and I said, "Because there are. There's always brighter days ahead."
That's a good thing for her to say, whether she meant it that way at the moment or not. Right? You're that voice, and you're right. The future is bright. It absolutely is. You know, last thing I'll say, we rehearse all the time. We'll go back through the Old Testament. You know, Abraham was provided for during a famine. Isaac was provided for during a famine. Elijah and Elisha were provided for during a famine. Jesus pulled a coin out of the fish's mouth to pay the disciples' taxes. Like, he's a waymaker, and so good things are coming.
They are. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this today, Chad.
Thank you, Trisha. I'll see you soon.
Welcome. You guys have a great day. Bye, y'all.
Bye.